This is part 2 of video series on intellectual property. This part focuses on public domain. You can check our other videos on different topics of intellectual property. What people love most, perhaps, is the public domain and its similars. Except for your own works, public domain materials are the most free and least restricted materials you could and should use. Public domain, this generally refers to a resource that falls outside of copyright and intellectual property laws, and doesn't belong to any one artist but actually belongs to the public at large. You can copy, modify, distribute, and perform the work, even for commercial purposes, all without asking permission. Here are the commonly used words and symbol labels for public domain. A work of authorship is in the public domain if it is no longer under copyright protection or if it failed to meet the requirements for copyright protection. Works in the public domain may be used freely without the permission of the former copyright owner. Some people may have misunderstanding of public domain materials. It's actually full of treasures. Take a look at Disney. Their movie empire is built on great works of the past. Much of the success of the Disney Corporation was based upon public domain books. Several museums have released large numbers of their collected artworks and images into Creative Commons 0(cc)(0) and Open Access designations, which are almost the same as the public domain. The museums waive any copyright it might have, and dedicates select data of artworks in its collection to public domain. You can download, share, modify, and distribute the data for any purpose, including commercial and non-commercial use, free of charge and without requiring permission from the museum. How comes the term of "no rights reserved"? Photographs can be difficult to analyze under copyright law, not only because laws around the world differ with respect to scope and duration of protection, but because the photographs themselves often lack credit lines, dates, and other identifying information. Therefore, in such situations, cultural institutions have reasonably concluded that a photograph is free of copyright restrictions and designated with the label of "no rights reserved." Libraries, museums, and other cultural institutions have a great deal of experience with photographs because they frequently collect, preserve, document, and study them in accordance with their nonprofit missions. However, in many instances, a cultural institution will not be the rights holder under copyright law. Therefore, it can neither grant permission to others who wish to use a photograph, nor provide a guarantee that the photograph is in the public domain. So, the term "no rights reserved" was coined. Pretty much anything that has been created has copyright protection, unless the creator has expressly said, "Do whatever you want," without a credit. Using it without permission, payment, and a credit can land you in trouble. Every time I see the words "free," "free download," and "royalty-free," I'll try to remind myself the phrase "no free lunch." These terms are usually where you pay a one-time fee to the owner, and they grant you a license to use their copyrighted item in certain situations. You usually can't resell it or use it as a logo, branding, etc., as you see in most stock photo and video clip sites. When going through the websites to download, it's very important to do your own research and pay attention to the type of license it is under and what restrictions that places you under. You will need to review the license information to ensure you attribute it properly. Music and audio copyrights are even more complicated. Let's say a website indicates that the music is free, can be freely downloaded and played yourself. This is absolutely not synonymous with "in the public domain." For example, you have to check the melody, lyrics, and the recording copyrights. They are usually held by different owners. Even if you have the music talent and wanted to create the music yourself, you still need to get the public performance or remix permissions from the owners. Here are some websites you can find public domain videos and audios. Here are some of the websites you can find open source images and photos. Please remember, the contents from internet search using any search engines are a mixed pool of materials with different intellectual property. Can't be used directly for your own works. Here we demonstrate how to set the filters for images and photos in Google and Bing search. Go to Google page, search the keywords. Let's search cat photos. And a lots cats. From the search setting window, select Advanced Search. Go to the bottom, find the usage rights. Choose your desirable license. Now you can safely use the searched photos for your work with much reduced risk of copyright infringement. Similar, you can search Bing. For example, let's search dog. And lots dogs. If you have a Bing account, every time you search from Bing, you accumulate rewarding points. Set the filter and choose the license you desired. The returned results are much safer to use now. Each website is different, you have to do your own search homework. But when using them, as a designer, you must be extremely vigilant about double-checking the license and terms of each of your desired images. Just remember to ask yourself the questions. Does the license of the image allow you to distribute it in the way that you intend? Is the quality of this image suitable for both print and web uses? Are these images defined as public domain by images by the copyright laws of both countries that my client and I are citizens of? Have I double-checked that this image is truly in the public domain? Does this image include trademarks, products, property, works of art, or people? If so, make sure that a release has been obtained or that you obtain one yourself. The laws regarding public domain images are different in every country, so it's also important to be certain it's a public domain image in both your country and the country that your client is a citizen of. The work may not be free of known copyright restrictions in all jurisdictions. Remember that some photos may require a model or property release. And never assume that a shiny, free download button is a blank check. Free public domain materials are an important cultural resource for everyone. Some of these free public domain image websites will take time to look through and research properly. But there's a lot of amazing materials in them that are worth finding. When using or citing public domain work, you should not imply endorsement by the author or the person who identified the work. You might need to give the credit, pay a fee, or you might have to do none of that. But make sure you check. If you do your research properly, You can find some great free public domain images to use in your projects. Though not required, it is advisable to provide attribution for the work in the public domain materials, or at a minimum keep a record of the attribution of the work, so that you or other interested parties can find it later if necessary. Persons may have other rights in or related to the materials in public domain, such as patent, property or trademark rights, and others may have rights in how the work is used, such as publicity or privacy rights. Some websites accept free public upload of photos, movies and documents which may be mistakenly labeled as public domain materials. Usually they will be removed later. So in these websites, there are lots to sort through with all kinds of copyright status. The websites do not hold legal responsibility. This will change under EU new online copyright derivative. Even when listed as public domain materials by the uploader, just be discerning. Unless expressly stated otherwise, the person who identified the work makes no warranties about the work, and usually disclaims liability for all uses of the work to the fullest extent permitted by applicable law. Although works may have been created long ago, and so themselves are in the public domain, this unfortunately doesn't always mean that their online digital versions are too. All too often they are published online under a restrictive license, often under CC by NC, which means there can be no commercial use of the material. In some jurisdictions, moral rights of the author may persist beyond the term of copyright. These rights may include the right to be identified as the author and the right to object to derogatory treatments. Cookies and viral pixels can be easily blended into the downloads these days. Be careful public domain materials from unknown sources. Public domain images can be a gray legal area, and that's why some designers prefer to use licensed stock imagery as a safer and more convenient alternative. Hope you enjoy the video. If you do, please consider liking it, sharing it and subscribing to our channel to view our video library. To subscribe, click the subscribe button, or click our YouTube webpage link.